Well, hey, good morning, Georgia. It's great to be on Community Focus. We do this every Thursday, just honing in on a different Georgia community. And Faith, where are we at today?
We are in Johns Creek today.
Well, we've got a number of guests that we're going to visit with. Our final segment will be with Rayford Smith, and we'll talk to Rayford about clean energy. There's really a lot of it going on in the state. So good morning, Rayford. Good to have you on the call today. Thank you. Carla Jacobs is going to be with us to talk about something that she's very knowledgeable about, and that is the fight against human trafficking. Good morning, Carla. And Elise and Ryan are our good citizen team today, and they are a part of Pathways to Life, a nonprofit working with a lot of high school students with addictive type issues. We'll talk with them. We'll drop everybody to the green room now and just talk with the mayor of Johns Creek. And I guess, Mayor, the first question I have is there a creek? Is there a creek out there with Johns Creek? Where did that come from?
There is definitely a creek, and so that runs through the center of Johns Creek. Actually starts, the headwater is up in Forsyth County, and back during the 80s, there was a tech park that was looking for a name, and they said, well, let's call it Johns Creek. So we're kind of named after the Johns Creek, but also after the technology park. So.
Yeah, well, that's great. You know, you think about your neighbor to the north in Forsyth County and just Lake Lanier and how much that area is growing now. And you're kind of in between, you know, the traditional suburbs and I guess Forsyth County is your area, very popular place to live, work, and play out there.
It very much is. You know, Johns Creek is really in the middle of everything. You know, it's interesting. We do not have a proper town center per se. That is something that we are working on, that I expect us to have completed in some form or fashion by the end of my term. But Johns Creek came about kind of out of thin air. We were just unincorporated Fulton County, looking for more local control, trying to get more control of our own destiny from Fulton County in terms of zoning. We have our police, our own fire, but we really want to do everything we can to create that sense of place, that sense of identity, and give people a better sense of belonging to a community. And that was really what my election was very much about, which is focusing on community.
Mayor, and Faith, you went through Teen Pack, and we teach kids about, you know, how bill becomes a law, the value of engaging with public officials. I mean, Georgia has a lot of counties. There's been talk forever about consolidating counties and people complaining about there being too many cities. But the thing I love about local communities, Mayor, is it really gives citizens a chance to be involved, right? At the very rudimentary level, right? So getting involved as a city council person, a chance to have an experience to represent your neighbors, to make public policy, to do things to better your community. It really makes public policy more accessible by having more towns, more communities, more positions. And I know I know that, you know, people, you know, kind of talk about duplicating services and all that. But in the end, I think we win more than we lose with smaller communities. I don't know how you feel about it.
Absolutely. I think it was Lincoln that said that government governs best that governs closest to the people. And, you know, they're just things that I am amazed. I so believe in this country, but also just this model of self-government that we have, because, you know, you're going out there and you're knocking on the doors and you're listening to people's concerns and their problems. And, you know, we have a tremendous staff that actually does the day-to-day, but it's critical that we have those elected officials that are really that glue that brings the people to what is actually happening with the government. And I don't think there's any better example of that than with your city.
Well, let's talk about the growth of Johns Creek. I know you all have some opportunity. If folks might be listening in or seeing the stream who are thinking about relocating somewhere, you guys are open for business, and you have an opportunity for some companies to come out there, right?
In a major way. So on one hand, Johns Creek is fairly built out, but there are definitely opportunities for redevelopment. And, this new council is very open to being flexible with businesses, with people that want to come into Johns Creek to do business. If someone's got a plan, we want to see it. We want to see their best proposals. And we want to work with you as much as possible to see if we can't make it a win-win and a value add for the business and for the community.
Well, great. Well, we're going to bring a couple of your good citizens into our screen here, Mayor. And I know, both you and I, work, for the government, so to speak. We're elected officials. But really, it's nonprofits in our communities, in our state, that really provide the heart and soul of being able to help people. And we've got a couple of folks from Pathways to Life. So, Mayor, just wanted to say thank you for all your great work out there, and I look forward to visiting with you in the city. I need to come out and maybe speak to one of your Kiwanis or Rotary clubs out there.
We would love to have you, and I know a Rotary Club that would love to have you, and if we can, let's make that happen.
Absolutely.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Mayor. Good to see you. Hey, Faith, we've got Elise and Ryan from Pathways to Life. Ryan, you're the founder of Pathways to Life, and one of my master's degrees is in nonprofit organizations, and I founded a national youth nonprofit. So I have a special place in my heart for that. Tell us a little bit about Pathways to Life.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So I'm the founder, and part of the journey of starting Pathways to Life really came out of my own experience with addiction and having a lot of passion and interests, great parents, a great community around me, but really struggling to find my way. I got my life wrapped around substances in high school and really kind of constricted me in that young adult part of my life. And 2001, I kind of had a spiritual awakening that led to my recovery. And part of the recovery is going back and looking at, man, what started this thing and how did I get here? And so as a person, that wanted to share my story with others, that sharing that story, finding my voice, gave me that confidence to begin to say, hey, I just want to share. I don't want this to happen to other people. And, that naturally evolved into me getting connected to my dreams, one of them to be a coach and a teacher. And so through my work as a coach and being active in my recovery, Pathways started to take shape.
Yeah. Elise, tell us a little bit about what Pathways to Life does in your work with young people.
Sure. We actually do prevention, crisis intervention, or like early intervention and support services for teenagers and their families. So we're working in the schools and we're working with families and communities.
And you said that what percentage of people who are involved with substance abuse start using before the age of 18? That was shocking to me.
So yes, the statistic is shocking, but it is 90% of people who are actually in recovery started under the age of 18. So we know that prevention, they say that prevention is really the key, and it is. And so that's really the frontier we work on.
When you say early intervention, are you meaning that you want to get to people before they've been addicted to kind of push them away from that, or is it catching them in the early stages of addiction?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so what we want to do is we want to prevent the early onset. So we want to prevent people from using. We also want to identify kids that are already in an early use cycle, because we know that if we can get in it with them, that we can hopefully prevent the progression. And then there's those kids that are a little farther along too, that need a little extra help. How do we connect with them and then get them connected to the right services to meet their needs?
So what are the ways that you do early prevention? What are the tools that you guys use?
Yeah, so we do a lot of, we have partnerships with public and private schools. So we do a lot of outreach, a lot of social emotional learning, where we're teaching kids about understanding emotions and understanding trauma, understanding conflict, and how do they really live life in a difficult world, right? And how do they understand brain development? So we're teaching them about all these developmental things and relational things, but then also understanding substances and how to have good information, right? There's a lot of information out there propagating, obviously different substances and different forms. And how do we help level that conversation, with really evidence-based and science-based information?
Elise, does anyone ever think they're going to be addicted to anything? I mean, does it always start out with this is harmless, this is just a one-time thing, or this is just recreational?
Absolutely. And, we have parents come to us all the time and said, they say, I didn't see it. I don't, how did this happen? And students alike, how did I get here? And so it's very common. I don't think anybody goes, ooh, pick me. I want to become addicted. It's really a path and a pathway and a journey and a choice. And it's a choice to come out as well.
So tell us about this community coalition. This is so cool to me.
So there's kind of a difference, if you think about it, between individual and environmental strategies. And so Pathways to Life does a lot of individual strategies, working one-on-one with students and families. This is a community collaborative. It's called a Drug-Free Communities Grant. It's funded by the ONDCP and managed by the CDC. And it is really a community collaborative around reduction of substance use, but also about promoting community wellness.
That's awesome. So are y'all just in Johns Creek, or do you serve the surrounding area?
So we're just in Johns Creek, but knowing what we know and working in prevention, we're right now working with the city of Milton, trying to help them get a permanent drug disposal, a prescription drug disposal box.
Yeah. So tell me about that. You have one at City Hall, right? In Johns Creek.
We just took pictures yesterday, and so excited. It is permanently there. It took us about a year to get all the paperwork done, but 90% of prescription medication overdose and addiction comes out of the home medicine cabinet. So it's just super important that becomes that a way to limit access to those drugs.
How can folks find out more about your organization's pathwaystolife.org, right? But how can they get involved?
So with Pathways to Life, if you're interested in accessing our services, you can just go on our website and fill out there's a crisis intervention form or a contact form. And for One Johns Creek, it's onejohnscreek.org, and they can again fill out the information form.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank y'all for being on with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, Carla, how's it going?
Hey, Tim, it's good. How are you guys?
Yeah, it's been too long since we've done an Unholy tour. And about the time we get ready to go back, there's a new COVID variant, and folks are, concerned about getting on a bus together and doing what we do. So we're anxious to be able to get started back, but
Yes.
I don't think the traffickers have stopped trafficking women during the pandemic. I think that's still alive and well.
It is, unfortunately.
So Carly, you were going to talk to us about, we just started our legislative session. For the next few months. We're going to be very busy here at the Capitol, and human trafficking is always a big part of that. I know that our governor and first lady are very much have hearts for the women who are and boys who are trafficked. Tell us some about what the big conversations are right now going into this legislative session in this arena.
Sure. We haven't seen, like you said, we're very early in the session. So we haven't seen the bills that are coming out of the governor's office. And as you mentioned, human trafficking is one of the main focuses of the First Lady and her Grace Commission. And so a lot of the legislation that comes from the governor's office around human trafficking are needs identified by the Grace Commission. So we're still waiting on those bills to drop. We're hoping that they would drop, by yesterday, and I could talk about them, but that didn't happen. But there are a couple of bills that have been filed already that we're watching. The first one is HB 849, and it's a mandated reporter bill. And what it does is it adds human resources and supervisory personnel of businesses that employ minors,
Interesting.
people under 18, adds them to the list of mandated reporters. And so human trafficking is a type of abuse that is under the mandated reporter umbrella.
And explain just really quick for people who are listening who don't know, what is a mandated reporter?
A mandated reporter is someone who works in some capacity with youth who are required by law to report instances of abuse. So obviously teachers are on that list, counselors, PTA personnel are also on that list, as well as like Sunday school teachers and church workers. And really anyone that works with youth is considered a mandated reporter. And now this new law passed will add, supervisors at work to that list.
So let me just ask, I actually don't know the answer to this question. Are volunteers with youth serving organizations, are they still mandated reporters even though they're not employed by the organization? Okay.
Yes. So when I was in the PTA, I still am in the PTA, but when I was very active in the PTA, when my kids were in elementary school, we, were considered mandated reporters.
Interesting. That's awesome. Okay. So tell me about the other, you said there's 2 that dropped.
There's one that's left over from last year, and it is HB 178. And I think we talked about this the last time I was on the show, but it's the one that would allow survivors of human trafficking to change their names without going through the public process.
Yeah.
So, if you need to change your name to get away from your trafficker and you have to post the name change in the newspaper, that kind of defeats the purpose. So that law would seal the name change.
That's awesome. And that is, you said, leftover from last year.
It's left over from last year, from the last session. Yes. So we're still monitoring it. The commission is still monitoring it. So we'll see what happens if it makes any movement, or it may not make any movement.
Hey, Carla, I wanted to get just an update on the facility that the First Lady was really responsible for getting built up there in Paulding County that I guess Wellspring Living was helping to run. Do you feel like that facility is a model facility? Do we need more like it, or do we need other types of facilities?
I think it's a good facility. It's a very important facility. And the name of it is flying right out of my head right now.
Receiving Hope Center.
Receiving Hope Center, yes. And it is set up to be an emergency intake center. So if law enforcement comes across a kid that needs to be immediately removed from their situation, they have somewhere to go. They can go to the Receiving Hope Center. And it's in Paulding County, so it's in the north end of the state. It would be nice to have one, in the south end of the state, so that children and youth don't have to be taken so far out of their communities. But this facility provides teachers, provides, medical exams, pretty much everything they need. And the youth can stay here for, I think it's 90 days. So it gives plenty of time for, space to open up at a residential facility to kind of work the case and figure out what's the most important thing this child needs to put them back on the road to recovery.
Well, thank you very much for all that you continue to do, and we look forward to to working with you. Really appreciate your service in this area.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Carla.
Hey, let's bring our last guest in, Rayford Smith. So, Rayford, good morning. Hope you're doing well.
Good morning. Good to see y'all.
Hey, Rayford, there's green energy in Georgia is really just continuing, to grow. I know I had a chance to amend our last rate case and add net metering in there as a pilot. Have you heard good, bad about the net metering pilot? Do you feel like it's something we should do more of? What kind of feedback are you getting out there on net metering within the Georgia power system?
Sure. Well, so I live in Savannah, a bit far from Atlanta, but still in the great state of Georgia. And I can tell you that a lot of what I've heard is people that are very positive about it in terms of the impact they think it'll help in terms of helping solar adoption for different systems on different homes, and I think they're eager to see it in action and see what happens.
Savannah is a city that's doing a lot right. I know that they've got a fleet of Nissan Leafs. They've used some of the make-ready money that we also put in that rate case to be able to build a lot of EV chargers. Have you seen those Nissan Leafs running around downtown Savannah?
I have. My mom lives on one of the squares here, and she gets to see the cars go by quite a bit. So it's pretty neat to see them in action.
And there's a clean tech incubator that Reed Delaney is trying to stand up down there on his land. If you go towards Tybee Island on the left there on East Presidents, you've got that solar array that they put in under one of the programs we approved. They've got some bee boxes there. They actually generate a little honey in there. But there's a building back there on the river. It's a brownfield. It's like 1,300 acres back there. It's an enormous piece of industrial land that they're kind of mitigating. But he is really kind of leading the way and trying to get more businesses, whether it be startups or existing green businesses, to kind of co-locate right there. So Savannah really, I think, has a chance to be a hub for a lot of green businesses. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, you see a ton of money flowing into tech and green tech specifically. There's just a lot of innovation going on right now, whether it's in battery storage, renewables, on the software and the data side. It's just enormous amounts of effort going into it. And frankly, I hope to see my hometown become a hub. It would be really great to see the investment and the community grow.
Rayford, let me ask you just the last question about batteries in general. I know that I do anticipate us maybe going all in on batteries in this 3-year energy planning cycle, grid-tied batteries. Basically out there at a substation, out there in Middle and South Georgia, where we have a lot of utility scale solar. What do you see as the real positive for lithium ion batteries kind of deployed at utility scale?
Yeah, the great thing about them is they're incredibly flexible and they're really quick to stand up. Unlike when you build a power plant, a traditional plant, it takes years and years to develop and get approvals. Batteries and renewables and large, you can stand them up very, very quickly. They're very flexible assets. They can do a lot for us, and they can have a variety of uses on the grid. Ultimately, as I think about this, they're good. The lithium-ion batteries are good for a couple hours. Long duration storage, which is kind of the next generation of the batteries, even beyond that, has even greater potential for utility scale benefits across the system. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that stuff come to commercial scale.
Obviously, we're talking about Johns Creek and not Savannah today, but you, like a lot of people, they get around the state. They're in Savannah, a few days, and they're up here. So what's your connection to Johns Creek?
Oh, gosh. So I lived in Alpharetta right next door for the longest time, and of course went to the University of Georgia and was a Southern Company employee for over a decade. So I spent a ton of time up in that area. It's a beautiful place. I got to tell you, it's growing really fast. And my twin sister actually lives in Johns Creek. So it's an odd connection, but man, it's great. We're all over the state. Everybody named Smith. We're all related.
Yeah. Well, let's bring everybody back as we wrap up our community focus today. Faith, where are we going next week?
Next week, we will be down on the coast in St. Mary's. And then February 3rd, we will be in Peachtree Corners. And a friend of y'all's at Pathways to Life is going to be coming on with us, Allie Neal with Revved Up Kids. And she's the one that actually put me in contact with you guys. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Well, Rayford, I hope to see you around sometime. Thank you very much for being on today. Ryan and Elise, keep up the great work there, working with our young people. And Carla, for your work in this human trafficking fight. Thank you so much for doing that.
Mayor, I want to know where the dog was this whole time. Why wasn't the dog part of our broadcast?
The dog wanted to be.
Yeah, I think the dog has grabbed the mayor's phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mayor, thank you so much for your leadership out there. Look forward to visiting with you soon. Everyone, appreciate you. Have a great weekend, great rest of the day. Hopefully we don't get another big snowstorm this weekend and we can move on with our life. So appreciate y'all. Thanks so much.